This book is called Happy Passover, Rosie, and the story and pictures are by Jane Breskin-Zalben. The night before the first Passover Seder, Rosie and her brother Max hunted for stray breadcrumbs with wooden spoons. Grandma dusted the shelves with a feather, while Grandpa held a glowing candle and a small box for the crumbs. The next morning, birds were chirping when Rosie opened her eyes. The air felt like spring. Rosie and Max helped Grandpa burn the box of chametz while Grandma stirred the soup she was making for the Seder meal. She sighed. These matzah balls are light and fluffy. Max whispered, "Remember last year when Papa made them and they were like bowling balls?" Rosie giggled, watching them float. Don't make your balls too fluffy. Before sundown, family and friends arrived. Aunt Gertie gave Rosie a huge wet kiss on the cheek, and Uncle Jaime nearly crushed her with his big hug. When it was time for the Seder, Rosie sat next to her cousin Benny. Grandpa picked up the 3 matzahs in the blue velvet pouch embroidered with gold thread. He broke the middle matzah, the afikomen, in half and wrapped it in a cloth. When no one was looking, he hid the matzah. Rosie wondered where and when. She thought she had been watching Grandpa the whole time. Then it was time to ask the 4 questions. Rosie was the youngest, so she was supposed to ask them all by herself. She had been practicing with Max for weeks. Rosie looked at the faces around the table. Mama smiled as Rosie began. "Why is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights we eat bread or matzah. Why tonight only matzah?" Papa smiled also. It's a big family Seder. That is a good time. Max helped a little with the second question. Sarah whispered the next one when Rosie forgot a word. Rosie and Benny said the last question together. Mama and Papa were very, very proud. Everyone said the 10 plagues and sang Dayenu. While Grandpa recited the Haggadah, Rosie spent most of her time under the table, crawling between her aunts and uncle's legs. She peeked out when it was time for the bitter herbs, the charoset, and finally, the meal. It's hard to wait for the meal, even for grown-ups. The family was so stuffed, nobody could move an inch, except Rosie and Max and their cousins, who ran around searching for the hidden matzah. Rosie looked under the pillow on Grandpa's chair. "I found the afikomen!" she cried. Grandpa took Rosie aside and gave her a shiny silver coin, and he winked like this. Rosie gave Grandpa a big smile. Then he poured a glass of wine for the prophet Elijah and left it in front of an empty chair. Rosie and Max played with Benny and Sarah. So lucky to have cousins and brothers and sisters. Everybody be grateful for your families. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the front door. Grandma opened it. Outside was very dark. "Is it the ghost of Elijah?" asked Uncle Jaime. Rose trembled. Uncle Jaime began to chuckle. Then Aunt Gertie. Then Mama and Papa and all the cousins. From beneath a coat came Grandpa. The relatives laughed very hard. Rosie didn't laugh at all. She wouldn't go near Grandpa for a long time. Maybe she was still scared. But I think he was just pretending. See, he's pretending like there's nobody in the coat. He's invisible or something. Grandpa came over to Rosie when he saw she was feeling better. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry I scared you. See, it's me, Grandpa. I'll always be your Zadie, forever." And he touched his hand to Rosie's. "Can I give you your special gift now?" Rosie nodded. Wow, in all these books, people get special presents for Passover. Wish I'd known about that. Grandpa gave her a kiss, a hug, and her own Haggadah. Rosie hugged her Grandpa. "Happy Passover, Rosie. Happy Passover, Grandpa." Grandma came over and hugged Rosie also. And Grandma, too. Her apron still smelled of chicken soup. I hope there was matzo balls in that chicken soup. And that's it. then we have the Seder plate in the back. You name the things. There's a shank bone, and an egg, and horseradish, and parsley, and haroset, and bitter herbs, and the matzah. Mine doesn't have a place for a matzah. Usually that's on a separate plate. Okay, and this is the 4 questions back here. Ah, in Hebrew. Ah! Okay, I think you got it. You can do the 4 questions now. Great. Thanks for listening.